Good evening. It's February 17th, 2025. I have a few stories to share with you. This is with regard to, as I had titled this video, the People's Revolution, basically. So I'm going to go over some things here. We're going to start with a legal win for Doge, as a federal judge has just declined to issue an order halting Elon Musk and Doge from accessing federal data and cutting personnel. So, let's see. Attorneys general from 14 states are attempting to stop Musk and Doge from accessing data in 7 federal agencies and from firing or putting on leave employees in those agencies. U.S. Court Judge Chutkan just refused to issue a ruling from the bench. So at that point, she has not halted Musk and Doge from continuing their action inside the 7 agencies as at issue here. And this is important. Let me see here. Let me just add a note. We're going to go to another story. So what Doge is doing is similar to Clinton-Gore Dem policies of the 1990s. The current Dem party has just gone so crazy far left that it isn't recognizable anymore. So this is what this person says. So the Clinton administration, Clinton and Gore took the challenge that few politicians dared to confront, cutting the size of the federal government. I think Reagan tried that too, but I'm not sure how much he was able to cut. So facing a ballooning deficit and mounting inefficiencies, Clinton announced an ambitious plan to slash wasteful spending, shrink bureaucracy, and rein in government overreach. He signed an executive order eliminating 100,000 federal jobs, a 12% cut in administrative costs, and the consolidation or termination of hundreds of outdated programs. One of his biggest warnings, if wasteful spending wasn't controlled, the federal deficit would soar to $650 billion per year by the early 2000s, with a growing share of tax dollars going toward interest payments on debt instead of public investment. So, there's a video on it, but it's a pretty long one that I'm not going to show you right now. Yet decades later, he says Clinton's reforms worked during his presidency. The federal workforce shrank by 380,000 federal jobs, a 16% decrease. And they are complaining about the jobs cut now, which, by the way, are getting you're getting paid. You're not going without any compensation, these federal workers. So, but the point is, 380,000. Okay, people must have forgotten about that. So that's important to know. And yet, decades later, after the War on Terror, the 2008 financial crisis, and COVID-19, government spending has soared once again. Bureaucracy has expanded, and the national debt has reached historic highs. Now history is repeating itself. President Trump has appointed. Is that a Freudian slip? So the Freudian slip, as people would say if they were anti this whole thing with Trump and Musk, has appointed Musk, widely regarded as the world's most successful CEO and technologist, to lead efforts to streamline the government and restore fiscal responsibility. For the sake of America, I hope the Democrat Party and the corporate media can set aside their irrational opposition and support Doge, just as they once backed Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Well, this person makes a good point. This needs to be done. You know, it's one of those things where you have to rip off the Band-Aid. Yeah, it hurts, but eventually it's going to be better for us. I can't stress that enough. The other thing I wanted to share was the info that came out about Social Security. Social Security isn't going broke. Money has been stolen in plain sight every single month. No oversight. Elon Musk says it could be the largest financial scandal in American history. $100 billion annually funneled to individuals without traceable Social Security numbers or identification numbers. That's outrageous. And people were worried about what was going to happen to our Social Security. Well, the money. Well, this is what's going on. Here's another post on it. Holy moly, Stephen Miller just confirmed that foreign fraud rings have been using fake Social Security numbers and identities to steal billions of taxpayer benefits through the IRS. Let's see what he has to say.
What are the plans to do so if those records are obtained?
Well, as we know, there's a massive amount of fraud in this country. You have, for example, foreign fraud rings. These are foreign nationals who come into the United States. They use fake Social Security numbers. They use fake identities to steal billions in taxpayer benefits. There's no way to know until DOJ gains full access exactly how much money we're talking about. But over a 10-year normal budget window, you could be talking about saving over $1 trillion by clamping down on massive fraud in our tax and entitlement systems, including, again, those carried out by organized fraud and theft rings. A very important point in all this is to understand that DOJ are subordinate staffers of the federal government. They are political appointees, just like me, just like everyone else in the White House, that serve and answer to the president. So we're not talking entity. We're talking about the existing federal staff of the federal government performing their statutory and constitutional duty.
Okay. This is all important things going on now. Now we know what happened last week. All the good news about the talks with coming up with Putin and the talk that J.D. Vance. I forgot to put this back. The talk that J.D. Vance had in Munich, Hegseth's talk, all the things that are going on, and then all the domestic things. Those are the foreign things, diplomatic things that are going on, but then in the world, and then there's the domestic things that are going on. All of these things are going on at the same time, which is amazing. That's how I feel about it. You all have your own opinions. My opinion is this is great. I'm going to go with a couple more videos, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on this people's revolution, as I put it. Okay, so we're going to start with what Scott Ritter says here about what happened last week and his thoughts on revolution.
5 days. Is this 80-year U.S. dominated Atlantic alliance really ending? What happens to NATO? Give me your overall reaction. What does this mean now that you've had a little bit of time to digest what's gone on?
Well, I mean, there's a couple words I would use to describe what's happened here. One is reality. What we've seen is a massive reality check. The other term is inevitability. I don't think there's an observer. I don't think anybody in this audience, this panel, thought that what was happening with the United States, the aggressive posture that we've taken, especially in the post-Cold War era, was sustainable. I know for a fact, I've spoken to every one of you, and you have all said that the route that America was down, this sustainment of a rules-based international order at the expense of everything else, was going to be the ruination of America. And so I don't say, is this alliance dead? It was dead already. It's been dead for decades. It's been a zombie. It's been a walking corpse. No, there's the potential now for a genuine American-European relationship that can bring us both to life. If you say that what's killing the relationship is that Europe has become addicted to war, then that's not a Europe that's worth sustaining. And yet, when we take a look at the response to what the Trump administration has put forward in this most recent European sojourn with Hegseth and J.D. Vance and others, it's Europe that appears to be addicted to war. They don't know anything else other than war. Now, I'm going to say that that's not Europe, that is a slice of political and economic elites that have been empowered by an America that no longer exists, by an America that was seeking to sustain, as the Biden administration articulated repeatedly in their national security strategy, sustain the rules-based international order. Read the document again that Biden put out. The singular thing that made America, defined America's national security interests was the rules-based international order. That is dead. Donald Trump has killed it. It's finished. It's done, never to reemerge, and with it goes all the baggage. I think you're going to see, even in the coming weeks, Joe, the death of NATO and the death of the European Union. And these are two institutions that couldn't die soon enough. But it doesn't mean the end of Europe. See, I believe that underneath this veneer of militarism is the real Europe. What I see is that there's a layer of political and economic elites that have become addicted to being the servants of America, that have allowed America to call the shots, that have sold their soul to the devil that was the rules-based international order, and are shocked now that the wicked witch is dead. They don't realize Dorothy threw the water on the witch is no longer here, and they don't know what to do. They will disappear. There's no ability to sustain this. They lack the means to do this. They lack the political will. We're seeing the fracturing as it happens. Joe, this is the most magnificent week in modern history. This is one of the most, I've been calling for exactly this. I've been called everything you want, every bad name in the world. But for a long time, I've been saying this is exactly what has to happen. It doesn't mean we're selling out to Russia. It means we are finally standing up and saying that we are not a nation defined by war, that we are a nation defined by relationships, that we are a nation that knows how to engage in economic discourse. I'm not saying Donald Trump is the perfect ambassador, but when you have a revolution, you don't get to pick the revolutionary. The revolutionary picks the revolution. And Donald Trump is the revolutionary of our times. And what's taking place today is a revolution in every sense of the word. And I just think it's just remarkable. I couldn't be happier. And I will tell you this, the Russians are in shock. I'll let Ray maybe talk about that or something, but the Russians are in shock because I kept telling them this is going to happen. This is the direction. This is the real America. Underneath the Biden crap, the Obama crap, the military-industrial complex, there's a real America there that doesn't yearn for war. A real America that yearns for peace and will figure out how to interact with the world in a way that doesn't promote conflict. It's there. It just needs to find somebody willing to break through this crust of corruption. Holy cow, this isn't breaking through the corruption. This is scraping it off with a K-bar. I mean, this is the most awesome week ever. Now, I hope it can be sustainable. Sometimes things can't be. We'll find out if Trump is everything he says he is. The proof is in the pudding. But you know what? Journeys don't begin until somebody takes that first step. This is one hell of a first step.
Of course.
Amen. I totally agree with what Scott is saying here. This is exactly how I'm seeing it as well. And so, with that info, one more clip to share with you. And let's see. It's what Steve Bannon has to say about Trump. Now, in this segment was actually about Trump requesting documents, info from the Secret Service regarding the two attempted assassinations that he went through. And of course, he said he's entitled to know, and of course he is. I would be too if I was in that position. And so, in any case, Bannon is going to share more of a historical viewpoint on this, and it kind of goes well with what we just heard from Scott Ritter.
And I know this drives people nuts, but you have General Washington, you have Lincoln, and then you have Trump. This will be known as the age of Trump. When this whole thing's 100 years from now, they won't remember Elon Musk or Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Jimmy Dore. They'll remember Trump and they'll remember MAGA, this populist movement that came out around this guy. And he's unique. This country generates people like this every 100 years. And, and I realize a lot of people hate him, but I will tell you, a lot of people hated Lincoln. And a lot of people hated Washington. You go back and they were on Washington all the times. Those great leaders are disruptors, like FDR and Reagan. During the time they're enormously controversial. It's only later, after they've powered through things, right, that they've become they've become an army piercing shell to the system, or they've given the system blunt force trauma. Only later, as the country's gone to the next level, in the kind of looking back in history, are they looked as kind of unifiers. At the time, Lincoln was not a unifier at all. Washington, to a large extent, was not a unifier. Remember, only about a third of the country actually fought in the Revolution. And General Washington's great claim, besides what he did as president, his greatest claim was a general field commander for 8 years in a ragtag army to hold that together against a third of the country that were Tories and a third of the country who didn't give a fuck, were going to play both sides against the middle. He was a disruptor. Lincoln's a disruptor. Trump's a disruptor. In history, we look at General Washington as the father of our country. We look at Lincoln as the second American Revolution that really gave us a new republic, right? Without indentured servitude or the bonds of slavery. And we're going to look at Trump as the same way. He's taken this country if he makes it through. But I'm concerned. I agree with you. I'm always concerned about his health and his safety.
All right, so there's Bannon's opinion on how he sees Trump. Now, not everybody likes Trump. I don't like everything Trump does either. But, God uses whoever he wants. And I do believe Bannon says through the 2016 election, even in 2020, he, that was all of this was divine providence that he didn't get in 2020. And, I thought about that myself, and I agree. This gave him 4 years to get his team together, figure out a way to outsmart the global the global power elites that have been running this country in certain areas, Intel, military industrial complex, big pharma, all these places. They have been doing this for decades, 100 years? Close to that. And so, let me see. I'm going to open this up. So, what I want to say on that is that I consider this the people's getting justice and going back to the people, we the people, instead of these unelected, globalist, power-hungry elites behind the scenes. And we've had to deal with for years, and it's stymied growth for the average American, for them to live the American dream, for them to get further in better shape economically and all that. And I happened to come across a Facebook post by a friend of mine on Facebook. She said, well, I deleted this earlier because, it was a bit much, but I'm going to just say it. This is a coup, she says, in caps. The coup part. I'm not sure that technically it is a coup, because a coup usually requires the military. And we haven't had a military come in and topple the government. It's a revolution in the sense that we're overturning the people I mentioned, that cabal of people that have caused havoc, death, destruction, poverty all over the world, in this country, in our government. And so, as Bannon said, that Trump is a disruptor like the others he mentioned. I think he also mentioned earlier, he said in that video with Jimmy, that interview, that he also mentioned FDR and Reagan as somewhat disruptors as well. And, you know, although Reagan really didn't, I think he wanted to do a lot, but he didn't really get as much done. Trump is getting a lot done, okay? And a lot of people don't like it. Maybe they just like living in the status quo. And I'm thinking the only reason they would be feeling like that is obviously their lives are going well. They haven't had any problems financially. They seem to be doing just fine. And the people who have suffered, you would think they would feel better. Now, there's that issue we said about, all these people are being fired. Well, that happens when you downsize unneeded departments. As Anya Parampal said in one of her tweets or posts, she said something like, these two people on 60 Minutes that were upset because they lost their jobs. She said, well, maybe they'll find a more noble job instead of working at USAID. Now, a lot of these people probably didn't even know they were doing anything. That they probably didn't know. Most of these people at the bottom rungs probably didn't know what was going on in USAID specifically. A lot of them probably they thought they were doing good things. But in reality, it wasn't a good program, and neither is any NED. So it's a good thing that this is out. We got to get rid of these. And I hope this continues, and I hope these things are really washed out, cleaned out from there. We really do need to, as Ben had said, we need to go through the Pentagon. He said in another portion of the video interview. I think it is important, and I think that's what he's most afraid of for Trump's life, is going and gutting money being sent in Pentagon. And the corrupt stuff that's going on, the regime change, the unnecessary wars, whatever they're going to dig out and find. Now, Elon and Doge will be going into that, because Trump wants to cut the defense spending in half. You can't do that without going in and digging out what's bad, no matter what. So, I don't know if you've heard of him, but this is award-winning journalist. He's been around for eons, decades and decades. Seymour Hersh. I'd heard a while back from some geopolitical analyst, I can't remember which one. He had said the only way things are going to change and be disrupted, this whole mess of pro-war, everything that we do wrong in foreign policy and all that, it's not going to be disrupted with just anybody. Only person he said that could he believed that could do that was President Trump. And it was before he was president, but he said Donald Trump is the only person possibly can do that. And that's a very important thing. And as you see, this is happening. A lot of things last week were great. I know a lot of people were very happy to see what happened last week. And I hope it continues. I hope it does. Everybody who is for this, for real change, getting rid of corruption, getting rid of fraud, getting rid of forever wars, getting rid of regime change, getting rid of kickbacks and all the fraud that's in there and the waste, making the government run efficiently. Everybody should want that. Everybody should want the peace in the world. Everybody should want denuclearization, as Trump talked about yesterday. All of these things should be majority of the American people would want. Stop thinking about Trump. They've been brainwashed that Trump is this and Trump is that. Trump. It doesn't matter who it is if they're doing the right thing. So, that's what I wanted to share today. I thought it was an important piece to share. And I hope you enjoyed listening and learning about these things if you hadn't already, seen it yourself. In any case, thanks so much for watching my channel and watching what I put out. Please share my channel, share my videos, like my videos if you like what I put out. Get me out there in the algorithm. And appreciate all your support. And until next time.